Okay, what are you saying, people, and welcome back to my channel. Now today I've got another weekly Forex analysis for you guys. So on the screen are the 12 pairs we'll be looking at today. But before we get into that, make sure you subscribe to the channel and also leave a like on the video if you're feeling generous. If you haven't already, make sure you follow me on my Instagram page. I'll leave the handle there. And also check out my Telegram channel. I'll leave that link in the description. Posting a lot of different trading setups there throughout the week, and you don't be missing out on that. So make sure you go check that out. Links will be in the description. But like I said, another weekly Forex analysis, so let me stop talking and let's get into the video. First up, we've got Euro USD. Okay, so for Euro USD this week, not too much happened on this pair. As you can see, price is basically just consolidating here around that level. And again, you can see why it's consolidating, because we're at this strong weekly level of prior resistance turn support. So if I just get rid of that quickly, you can see really nice resistance turn support, which is the same level I was talking to you guys about last week, saying if you can hold that, can expect to see further continuation to the upside from a weekly point of view, and just see a continuation of this overall bullish trend that we are in on the weekly time frame. So if the market does hold this area, I do expect to see further continuation to the upside. The market's eventually going to give us a new high. However, as you can see, we just basically got indecision there. A lot of candles there with wicks to either side. You can see last week's candle did close bullish, but it does have those two wicks to either side, indicating us basically indecision. And same with this candle that closed this week, did close bearish, but it's still holding that support. But overall, we do have indecision. So not too sure if we will hold this area or not, but if we do hold it, expect further continuation. If we don't and we break through, that's where I expect price to go back to that support there and go and fill in that weekly range. However, if we just look at the daily time frame, as you can see, we just do have that indecision. So if you're trading on the lower time frames, can be looking to take advantage of that range there and just look to trade within it. So if you can get a nice swing back to the upside, back into that level, or maybe back down again, and just look to continue to trade that range until we see a breakout. And again, if you do see a breakout, I expect to see price come back into this level here, which was a really nice resistance on the daily, which sent price down. As you can see, really nice push to the downside. So I was expecting that move into 1.21 last week. So if you do see a breakout to the upside, that's probably where I do expect price to go. Break to the downside, can just be expecting to see this overall bearish trend here on the daily continue and just see another new low. At that point, I think we can get to 1.17500, which is this key support here, where we saw a nice injection of momentum there in the market. So if you do see a break to the downside, could be expected to see new lows there and a move back into 1.17500 area. Break to the upside could take us to 1.21, but for now we're still stuck in that range, and until we break out, can expect to see further swings from that resistance back into that support. Next, we're going to take a look at USD JPY. Okay, so for USD JPY here, as you can see, not too much happened this week, just a lot of indecision. You can see here on the daily chart, a lot of dojis there, wicks to either side. Mainly just the indecision there in the market is stuck around that area. I did say last week, however, you could see further continuation to the upside, tap into this level of resistance. As you can see, the previous time, the last time we were here, saw a really nice strong reaction to the downside, a lot of bearish momentum. So I do think we could tap back into that area and then see the bigger move to the downside, because again, the daily chart and the weekly chart are very overextended to the upside. I do think the market needs to take a little bit of breather first before it wants to continue in this journey to the upside. So I think we could see another small push to the upside, tap into the area between 109.500 and 110, so this area here, and then see the push to the downside. On the weekly chart, again, we are trading at a nice area of value, a really strong weekly trend line. So if I connect the previous highs in the market and just take this across, you can see initially test there, second, third, now we're having our fourth test of this trend line. So we do have confidence around this area. Of course, we've got the weekly trend line, and just above it we've got that daily resistance. So we might see a false break push to go and test that daily resistance, and then see the market push lower, because as you can see here, like I said, the daily and the weekly very overextended here, and we are due to see some retracement now from a weekly perspective. So I do think just generally in that area we will see a bearish reaction, but we could push to the upside a little bit further first, tap into that area, and then see the push to the downside. So bias overall for USD JPY is to the downside, but I'm favoring just one more push to tap into that area, and then see the push down, and at that point could actually see a move back into this area. This was the previous week daily resistance. As you can see, that was the last bearish candle before the market just took off to the upside. So I do think price will come back to around this area, around 107, if you do get a nice reaction from that daily resistance up there. So for next week, maybe see one more push to the upside and could see a really nice retracement back into around the 107 area. And next we've got USD CAD. Okay, so for USD CAD this week, we saw further continuation to the downside back to that 1.24 level. I did say last week could see a nice push to 1.24 and then could see a bit of a bullish reaction from that level. And as you can see, we tested 1.24 really well and then saw a bit of a bullish reaction to the upside. So now I do expect to see a bit more of a retracement now for USD CAD after this big push to the downside. Could tap back into this key level here in the market. So this 1.26 level might see that continuation back into the 1.26 and roll over again to the downside, because overall you can see the structure of this market is still very bearish. And again, we do have this bearish trend line here in line, so could tap into that level, maybe break above, tap into the trend line and then roll over. But overall, as you can see, we're still very bearish here, and at that point I do expect to see the market remain bearish until we take out that level and take out that trend line, and at that point can expect further continuation to the upside and potentially a reverse, or at least the counter trend move to the upside. But for now, it looks like we're going to have a bit of retrace. If I jump to the 4 hourly, we do have a key level that we have to get past, which was this prior resistance here in the market, which we did kind of wick into. As you can see here, if I just draw that area, kind of wicked into that area. So could see price maybe get stuck at that 4 hourly level there and then see a push to the downside. As you can see, a lot of momentum came through that area, so could see further continuation to that level get rejected, or maybe break through it to tap into that daily level just above us, 1.26, and then see the continuation to the downside. Either way, for next week I do expect to see further push to the upside for USD CAD, since we had that big push to the upside there on the daily with that engulfing candle, as you can see there. So could expect to see further continuation to the upside, but again, I think it's all retrace and then expect to see the bigger move still to the downside unless we get above that trend line up there. So for next week, could see a bit of a push to the upside back to this level here, then maybe the price might roll over to the downside, or this level here, price could push into that level, then roll over to the downside. Up next is Euro GBP. Okay, so for Euro GBP this week, not too much happened. As you can see, the market is consolidating right there in that area. So the market is still moving sideways, and from next week can expect the market to continue to do that. I was expecting to see a push to the upside to around 0.87 level, which is this key level of support. So if I just highlight this area and drag this all the way across, you can see it acting as really nice resistance previously here, sent it to the downside there on the daily. So I do think we can see a push back into that level, start maybe a bit of a range in this area. And as you can see, if we do break out this consolidation, so get a nice strong close above it, I think we could see that breakout happen, and could look to see if you could trade some pullbacks and ride it up to 0.87 level, which is this area of resistance there. However, if we do break to the downside, you could see actually a bigger move and actually see maybe a breakout on a weekly time frame. So if I just jump to the weekly, as you can see here, really nice key level of prior weekly resistance now turning support, which is probably why we're getting all these dojis and indecision in that area, because we're at a strong level of weekly resistance turning support. And since the weekly is so overextended here, as you can see, we haven't really had a proper bullish candle on the weekly time frame for quite some time now. As you can see, I had a slight one there and a slight bullish candle there, but they're essentially dojis. So we are very overextended to the downside, and the market is due to retrace that bearish momentum that it's seen over the past 5 or 6 weeks there. So I'm leaning for a move to the upside because the market is overextended, but there is a chance we could break through that support and see a bigger move to the downside. However, I'm favoring a push to the upside, but again, you need to be waiting for that breakout of that daily consolidation there, because right now, as long as price stays in this area, you can expect to see further consolidation and just price keep on ranging between those two levels there. So if you're trading on the smaller time frames, can look to take advantage of that, I suppose. But again, it's a very messy chart right now there on Euro GBP on the 4 hourly. And again, if you get to the lower time frames, we'll probably get a little bit more unclearer. But we do have a range between those two levels, so could look to take advantage of that. But if you do see a nice strong daily close above this area, so again, not 4 hourly, because as you can see, a 4 hourly close led to a false breakout. So if you see a daily close above this level, can see a really nice push to the upside and a move into 0.87, which is the move I'm favoring for next week. But as of yet, the market is still firmly in that consolidation, so can expect to see further consolidation at the start of next week until we see a breakout. Okay, so up next we've got AUD USD. Okay, so for AUD USD, price is still stuck within this daily range here. So we've got the resistance around 0.78 and the support around 0.76500. And as you can see, price is literally moving sideways, trading between that resistance and that support. As you can see, we've had two false breakouts here, really strong breakout to the upside. Then price reverse coming right back down, giving us that false breakout, and here as well, low momentum break there, and price comes straight back up. So two false breakouts there. I do think we can be seeing an actual breakout soon and the market start trending in that direction. However, right now, as you can see, the market is still very much so in between that resistance and that support. And we also do have this trend line which we can factor in as well, so connecting those previous swing lows, initial test there, second, third. The market is respecting that trend line quite well, and it could be a situation where we do squeeze between the trend line and that resistance, so we could see a breakout to the upside. And then if we do hold, can be seeing a nice continuation. But I do think price will come back to that 0.8 level, back to highs, and maybe even further up to 0.81. However, if we get past this trend line and past that support in the market, then at that case, can we expect to see a bit of a reversal and the market continue in the opposite direction and start to see a bigger counter trend move to the downside. But right now, the market is firmly between those two levels, so I'm not going to try and predict which way we're going to break out to. If we jump to the lower time frames, as you can see in the 4 hourly, we're still below, still between those levels, and at that point, you can look to take advantage of those two levels. So if we're at this level, can generally be looking for sells, and if we're at this level here, can generally be looking for buys and looking to capitalize on that range between those two levels, which is around 150 pips. So a lot of pips there to catch if we do start to continue that range. However, if we start to break out, can we look and take advantage of that? If we see a daily close, again, you don't want to be seeing 4 hourly, want to be seeing daily closes above these levels, then can take advantage of that breakout, either back to the highs again, or maybe either reversal to the downside. But for now, as long as we stay below that resistance and stay above that support, I do expect to see further continuation of consolidation throughout of next week. Now let's take a look at NZD CAD. Okay, so for this week for NZD CAD, not too much happened. I was expecting to see further continuation to the downside, back into around 0.89 level. As you can see, a lot of momentum came from this level, big push to the upside. So I think price could maybe tap back into that 0.89 level, then see a bigger push to the upside back into around 0.91, which is that prior resistance where it sent us to the downside there. So I was expecting to see further continuation. However, as you can see, all we got this week was just consolidation. Price is just consolidating, moving sideways there on the daily, and you can see why we are stuck underneath this key level of support here in the market. So big push to the upside, again acting as support there as well. Now we're back underneath it, testing as resistance. So if you maintain to hold this level, I do think price could break to the downside out of the consolidation, since overall we do have a bit of a bearish trend here, and go and tap into that 0.89 level and then see the bigger push to the upside. However, if we break to the upside and hold above this level, and then we can expect to see that bigger push to the upside from then on, and probably not even come to test that 0.89 level at that point. However, right now price is still consolidating and can keep on until we see a breakout. So again, we can either break to the upside, which again we'll probably see a price get above this support, and if we do hold, can look for buys from the support and look to try and target around that 0.91 level, again that prior resistance which sent price down. Or if you do break to the downside, could tap back into that 0.89 level, which is this sort of area here where we're kind of between 0.88500 and 0.9, so around that area, and then generally from that area can be looking for buys to take that high. So those are two opportunities I'll be looking for NZD CAD for next week, looking for buys around that area there, or potentially if you get back above and then hold that area of support, could look to take that up further. But right now all we do have is consolidation, and can expect to see that continue a lot further until we start to see some breakouts. Next up, we've got GBP NZD. Okay, so GPNZD, not too much happened this week. We did see a slight push to the downside. I did say last week I was expecting a downside push to around 1.92, which you can see we almost tapped into, and then around 1.91, which is this level here, which we did not reach. Right now, however, on GPNZD, all we have now is consolidation again there. Just a lot of very choppy price action. I do think we can still break to the downside. So if you do see a daily close outside of that consolidation box to the downside, I think the next target now is that 1.19 level, which is a really key level of support actually, because if I take this all across here and put that across more, you can see really nice support all across there, big moves to the upside, and again acting as resistance here on the flip side. So I do think, again, the market seems to be attracted to this level quite a lot. So if we do break to the downside here, it could be a really nice swing to the downside there on the lower time frames if you want to take advantage of that and see that breakout to that level. However, as you can see, we do still have that range on the daily. So again, if you're looking to take advantage of that on the lower time frames, can you simply just be looking to buy at the support and sell at the resistance there, and just take advantage of that until we see the breakout, which I think could be to the downside, which in that case, looking to target that 1.91 level. However, break to the upside, I think 1.95 and then potentially 1.96. Next, we're going to move on to CAD JPY. Okay, so for CAD JPY this week, we saw a bit of further continuation to the upside. You can see here on the daily, we saw a couple candles to the upside, and then we saw a nice bearish reaction at 88, which was the weekly target which I gave for CAD JPY when we saw the breakout of this level here. So really strong breakout of this key level of resistance. I did say the next stop will probably be 88, which is this key level of resistance here. As you can see, really nice bearish reaction, push to the downside. So now that we've tapped back into this level, I do think we'll probably see price eventually get back down to this level here. So I'm not sure if it would be a straight drop like we saw when we pushed to the upside. We saw a big push, very impulsive push. I don't think we'll see that push back down again. We could see a slow decline to the downside because it looks like we've had that impulsive move. And I do expect to see a bit of retracement back down to this area again, logical place where you do expect the retracement to end up, and then probably expect the continuation back from that level, since we had a strong breakout and didn't retest this level. So I think we could slowly come back down, retest that level, and then see the bigger push. But again, that's a bit more long term. But just jump to the daily quickly, you can see we tapped into that level. So I do expect to see continuation to the downside now, but again, because the market is still very bullish here, it could be a point where we're looking for another push to the upside first, retest that as resistance, maybe a double top there on the daily, and then can see the bigger push to the downside. And the next stop for CAD JPY I think could be around this area here, which we did see a lot of bullish momentum come from, which is around 80 from the 86 level. So could see a slight push to the upside for CAD JPY to start the week off. As you can see, we are losing momentum there. A lot of dojis coming around that area in the 4-hourly chart. So could see a push to the upside, maybe one last push of that bullish move, and then see that lower high come in, and then could be taking advantage of that sell. Nice swing trade to around 86, and then potentially could come all the way down to that weekly level down there. But for now, looking for a push to the upside first, retest that, show me that it is holding that 88 level, then could see a further continuation to the downside back to around 86, then after that potentially around that 84,500 level. Up next is GBP USD. Okay, so for GBP/USD, as you can see, the overall direction for this market is still very much to the upside. We still got this trend line here intact in the market. So again, numerous tests of this trend line here, and again you can see we have a slight close below, but again I wouldn't say that's a breakout. We want to see a very strong close below that trend line for us to signify that we could be having a breakout, and probably see another candle at least for us to make that decision. But right now I still say that trend line is intact, and if you just ignore the trend line and look at the price action here, price again is kind of just moving sideways. All of this is just mainly consolidation. So for GBP/USD we are moving sideways, I would say that, and for next week can expect to see further continuation of this sideways movement between that support and that resistance. Again, a break to the downside, so a daily close outside that consolidation will probably mean a daily breakout of that trend line as well. At that point could actually start to see a reversal here for GBP/USD, and we could take advantage of the swings to the downside. However, a break to the upside past that 1.4 barrier, I do think price will probably take off and see price right back at highs, which is 1.42. At that point, as you can see, a new high because again, we've still got that bullish trend overall on the higher time frames, and do expect to see new highs set if we do make another continuation. So for GBPUSD, can expect to see further continuation, further ranging between those two levels of resistance and support. Can we look to take advantage of that on the lower time frames, just simply trading between those two levels. However, a breakout to the upside will probably take us back to highs, back to that 1.42 level, maybe even higher. A break of that support, which means a daily close below it, and it holds, will probably mean a daily break of the trend line as well, and at that point expect a reversal. So again, just playing the waiting game to see which way price breaks out to. But in the meantime, if you're looking for those lower time frame trades, could look to trade between those two levels there and just take advantage of that range. And next we're going to see what's happening with GBP CAD. Okay, so for GBP CAD this week, we saw further continuation to the downside and saw a bit of retrace. I did give out really nice levels that price could be working with this week, which is this resistance here and that support there. And as you can see, price tapped into this support and had a really nice push back to the upside. Last week, however, I did say the opposite could happen. Potentially we could retrace to retest that resistance, look for selling opportunities there, take advantage of a move to the downside. However, as you can see, we just continue to the downside and then we've got that move up. So right now, I think we've got a really nice area of where price could potentially start to range between these two levels here. Key levels of support and resistance. So might just see a bit of this price action happening next week. But if you do see a breakout, we've got this trend line here that we need to see a break of as well. So a break of this trend line and a break of that resistance there could actually see a bit of a reversal and could see price come all the way back to highs there, and just this push to the downside is just a bigger retracement, and then we see the bigger push to the upside. However, break to the downside, we just expect to see a continuation of this bearish trend here and see price go a lot further, potentially back down to 1.7, which is that level around here. But right now, price is still firmly between these two levels. And for next week, I would expect to see a bit of a range, a bit of consolidation between these two levels, and then potentially see a breakout to the upside. And if you do see a breakout past that trend line and past that resistance, could be a really nice buying opportunity to look to take that back to highs. But again, we do have areas where you can look to target, aka that resistance there, again this level here, and again that level there, and so on to the highs back there. But I do think a breakout to the upside could be on, but we might see a bit of consolidation between these two levels first before we see that breakout to the upside for GBP CAD. And up next, we're going to take a look at gold. Okay, so for gold this week, we saw price climb slightly higher. Again, nothing too impulsive for gold. We just saw price kind of slowly climb higher, create some higher lows in the market, as you can see, connecting that trend line there. So I do still think a push to around 1770 is still on for gold, which is a key level here on the daily. So if I jump back to the daily, as you can see, really key level of support here in the market, which I do think we can come back, tap into as resistance, then might see gold fall over to the downside again, because overall, as you can see, the market is still very bearish here. And again, the structure is still very bearish. So I do think further continuation to the upside, tapping back into that 1770 level, this key level of support now turning resistance. Then from there, we might actually see price roll over back to the downside, back to lows again, because again, like I said, the market is still overly bearish here. However, if we do break above it and hold a support, could actually see a bigger move to the upside and go and take out, or at least go and test this trend line here in the market. Which if I connect the two major swings of gold, we could actually see a push all the way into that area. But of course, we need to get above this level and hold. But for now, go back to the 4 hourly time frame. I think we can see further continuation as long as we hold on to that trend line and slowly see price push to that 1770 level, and then maybe see that overall continuation back down again, back to lows, and just continue that bearish counter trend move that we're seeing for gold here. But if we do get above it, I think that push to the upside could be on back into that daily trend line. So for gold for next week, I'm expecting to see further continuation to the upside. Might see another bounce of that trend line back into 1770. Then expect price to probably fall back to the downside. Get above it, can see a bigger push back into that daily trend line. And last but not least, we've got Bitcoin. And last up, we've got Bitcoin. So for Bitcoin, last week I said if market gets below this level here, can see a retest of that 51,000 level, which is this key level of resistance. However, as you can see, we didn't quite get there. The market found support at this level here, by that trend line, and is still respecting it now. So I think, again, the target next target for Bitcoin is still 65,000. So as long as we stay above this trend line, I think the market will slowly eventually get to that 65,000 level and potentially even higher. Get below that trend line though, I think that retest is still on, and then we can say retest and then maybe slowly price gains some momentum and takes up to the upside. So basically for Bitcoin, bias is still overly to the upside here. I still think we can reach that 65,000 level, but it could be a case where we break through the trend line, see a retest of 51,000 first, and then we get that move. However, if we don't and we still stay respecting this trend line here, I think that 65,000 level could be reached potentially next week or very soon anyway. So bias is to the upside for next week for Bitcoin, and does look like price is respecting that trend line. So expecting that 65,000 reached. However, if we do see a break of that trend line, could take advantage of that push back into to that level of support around 51,000, then could be looking to buys to take that back to highs and potentially even further. Okay, so that is the end of the video. I hope you all appreciated it and enjoyed it. If you have any questions or you agree or disagree with my analysis, just drop a comment and I'll make sure I'll get back to you guys. So thanks again for watching, and until the next one, I will see you guys later.